My beloved child, come and sit with me, for we must speak of the country in which you have been living. Outwardly, you inhabit a physical space, a house, a city, but inwardly, in the vast and secret landscape of your own soul, I see that you have been living as an exile. You have been dwelling in a foreign land, a place you were never created to inhabit. You remember, perhaps as a faint and distant memory from a time long past, the twin kingdoms of your rightful inheritance, the vibrant, sunlit kingdom of joy, and the calm, quiet kingdom of peace. You once held a passport to these lands. You once spoke their language fluently. But that was long ago. Through a long and brutal campaign of attrition, through the slow erosion of disappointment, and the sudden, violent battles of trauma, you have been pushed out of your homeland. And now, you have become a citizen of a harsh, gray, and desolate country. The very air in this land is thick with the smog of anxiety. The national anthem is a mournful song of sorrow. The law of the land is a law of fear and self-preservation. You have lived in this land of inner exile for so long now that its oppressive atmosphere feels normal. You have forgotten what it feels like to take a deep, clean breath of my peace. You have forgotten the sound of your own, genuine, unforced laughter. You have come to believe, with a deep and settled resignation, that this land of inner exile is your permanent and unchangeable home. The world has looked at you and has confirmed this reality. They see the worry etched on your face. They feel the tension you carry. They hear the undercurrent of sadness in your voice. And they have offered you their condolences, accepting that this is simply who you are, now a serious person, a worried person, a sad person. They have accepted your exile as your identity, but I have come to you today as your true king and your great liberator, to issue a divine decree of repatriation that overrides all other claims on your life. I have come with the power of heaven to cancel your citizenship in the land of sorrow and to restore your passport to the kingdoms of my spirit. You believe you are a permanent exile, destined to live out your days in this gray and foreign land. But I declare to you today that I am a God of glorious and powerful restoration. This is my solemn and unbreakable promise to you. I will restore your joy and your peace. Before we can embark on the journey back to your homeland, we must first walk together through the desolate landscape of your exile. I must show you that I see, that I understand, and that I have been with you in this painful place. Let us speak first of the very climate of anxiety you have been living in. It is the very air you breathe from the moment you wake until the moment you fall into a fitful sleep. Right? It is a constant, low-grade hum of fear, a background noise in your soul that has become so familiar. You are often not even conscious of it. You wake in the morning, and before your mind is even fully alert, you feel a familiar knot of dread tightening in your stomach. Your mind immediately begins to race, scanning the day ahead for potential threats, rehearsing difficult conversations, and pre-living future disasters that will likely never happen. This anxiety is a cruel thief. When a good moment comes, a moment of temporary relief or happiness, the anxiety immediately whispers, "Don't enjoy this too much. It won't last. The other shoe is about to drop." And so it steals the pleasure from every small gift of goodness. Peace is not just absent for you. The very memory of it feels like a mockery of your present, hyper-vigilant state. You have become so accustomed to this atmosphere of anxiety that you have likely concluded that this is simply your personality that you are, by nature, a worrier. But anxiety is not your nature. It is the oppressive climate of the land of your exile. And let us speak of the geography of your sorrow, the landscape of your inner world. Once a green and pleasant land has become a place of profound and pervasive sorrow. It is a land of perpetual winter, where the skies are always gray. You find yourself walking, day after day, through the same deep valleys of past griefs, valleys you have never truly been able to leave. You sit by the cold, sluggish rivers of your disappointments, watching all your old hopes float by like dead, brown leaves. You have tried, time and again, to climb the mountains of self-effort, to claw your way out of this desolate land, only to find yourself at a barren, windswept peak with no new horizon in sight. Joy is not something you have simply lost. It is something you have had to actively bury in this land in order to survive. You have performed a quiet funeral for your own laughter, believing it was too fragile, too frivolous, too vulnerable a thing to survive in such a harsh and unforgiving climate. The landscape of your soul is littered with the small, unmarked graves of your dead dreams, and you have learned to walk around them with a quiet and respectful sadness, accepting them as permanent features of your terrain. This land of exile has its own cruel set of laws that now govern your life, laws you have learned to obey for your own self-preservation. There is the law of negative expectation, which states, if something good happens, it is not a gift. It is merely the setup for a greater and more painful disappointment. There is the law of constant vigilance, which commands you must never let your guard down. You must anticipate every possible negative outcome, for disaster is always just around the corner. And there is a law of emotional suppression, which warns, do not feel too deeply. Do not love too much. Do not hope too extravagantly. For joy will always lead to sorrow, and love will always lead to loss. You have lived by these harsh and cynical laws for so long that they now feel like the immutable truths of the universe. They have become the very operating system of your soul, causing your world, your heart, and your hopes to shrink smaller and smaller. And the most tragic part of this entire exile is that a part of you, in its desperate attempt to make sense of your suffering, has come to believe that this state is somehow holy. You have looked at your profound sorrow and you have mislabeled it as spiritual seriousness. You have looked at your constant anxiety and you have called it vigilance or godly concern. You have mistaken your joyless, worried, and heavy state for spiritual maturity, believing that a true and serious servant of mine must be constantly heavy with the burdens of this broken world. My child, you have accepted the very atmosphere of hell, and you have tried to sanctify it as a suburb of heaven. But I must now speak a word of absolute and liberating truth that will shatter the very foundation of this land in which you have been living. This land of anxiety and sorrows is not your home. You are a foreigner there. You are a royal child living in a slum. You are an illegal alien in the kingdom of despair. Your true citizenship, the one that was purchased for you at an infinite price by the precious blood of the Lamb, is in the kingdom of my own beloved Son. And I tell you, the native language of that kingdom is joy. The very atmosphere of that kingdom is peace. You have believed that peace is the absence of problems, but I declare to you that true. Divine peace is the powerful presence of me in the midst of your problems. You have believed that joy is a frivolous, superficial emotion for the naive and the untested. But I declare to you that my joy is a mighty spiritual weapon, a supernatural source of strength that the enemy cannot overcome and the world cannot take away. You have believed that your internal state of turmoil is a permanent reflection of your personality. But I declare that your internal state is a temporary condition. And I am here today as the great physician, the divine king, to heal and to reclaim the stolen land of your soul. So today, I am issuing a divine and sovereign eviction notice to the twin tyrants of anxiety and sorrow, who have been illegally squatting on the property of your heart. Their lease is up. Their fraudulent reign is over. This is not a suggestion. This is not a gentle wish. This is a decree from the throne of heaven. I will restore your joy and your peace. But for this great restoration to take place, you must first understand the process. To understand why I'm now about to fill you, you must first understand why I had to allow you to be emptied. We must now speak of the emptying of a shallow well. You now see with clarity the desolate landscape of your inner exile. You have acknowledged the gray, oppressive atmosphere of anxiety and sorrow in which you have been living for so long. And you remember, with a deep and painful nostalgia, a time when things were different. You remember a time when you did have a measure of joy, when you did experience moments of peace. And your most agonizing question is, where did it go? Why did you, a good God, allow the thieves of sorrow and anxiety to break into the house of my soul and steal my most precious possessions? But I must reveal a difficult but liberating truth to you today. My beloved child, your joy and your peace were not stolen from you by the enemy. They were lovingly, purposefully, and mercifully allowed to run dry by me. For the well from which you were drawing your happiness was shallow, it was contaminated, and it was unreliable. And the only way I could make you desperate enough to seek a deeper, purer source was to first allow your shallow well to fail you completely. We must now speak of the divine and necessary mercy of the emptying of a shallow well. I want you to remember your former joy. It was real, and in its season, it was a gift from me, but it was a joy that was almost entirely dependent on your circumstances. It was the bright, bubbly happiness that came from an answered prayer. It was a thrill of a new relationship, the satisfaction of a successful project, the pleasure of a vacation or a new purchase. It was a joy drawn from the shallow, surface-level well of a pleasant and agreeable life. And because its source was external, it was incredibly fragile. The moment the circumstances changed, the moment the relationship hit a rough patch, the moment the project failed, the joy evaporated, for the shallow well had run dry. Remember also your former peace. It too was real in its own way, but it was the peace of a calm, glassy lake on a windless day, not the deep, abiding peace that can withstand a hurricane. It was a peace that came from having your life in order, your future seemingly secure, your finances stable, your relationships predictable. It was a peace drawn from the shallow well of a life you felt you had under control. And the moment the storm of trial hit, the moment you lost control of your circumstances, the moment the future became uncertain, that fragile peace was instantly shattered into a million anxious pieces, for its source was your own illusion of control. You have seen the failure of your old joy and the shattering of your old peace as a great tragedy, as a sign of my disfavor or your own spiritual failure. But I, your loving Father, who desires for you the most resilient and eternal of treasures, see it as one of the most loving and necessary acts of mercy I have ever performed in your life. I allowed your shallow well to run dry so that you would finally become thirsty enough to seek true living water. I allowed your circumstantial happiness to fail you so that you would become desperate enough to discover joy that is independent of all circumstance. I allowed your situational peace to be shattered so you would cry out for a peace that surpasses all understanding. The failure of your former joy was not a tragedy. It was a divine invitation to something infinitely deeper and more real. Let us look at the specifics of this holy emptying. I had to empty you of your reliance on circumstantial happiness to make room for divine joy. To do this, I allowed your circumstances to fall apart. I allowed the things that gave you a temporary and superficial happiness to be stripped away. I know how painful this was. It felt like I was taking everything from you. It felt like an act of cruelty. But I was not just taking. I was making room. I was lovingly emptying your hands of the cheap, plastic, breakable toys of earthly happiness so that I would have space to fill them with the solid, weighty, indestructible gold of divine joy. The world's happiness is the absence of pain, but my joy is a deep, resonant delight in my presence that can, and often does, coexist with great pain. It is the joy that my Apostle Paul knew when he sang praises in a dark prison cell. It is the joy that my son possessed even as he was walking toward the cross. This is the joy I have for you, but you could never have discovered it as long as you were still satisfied with the cheap substitute of circumstantial happiness. I had to empty you of your addiction to situational peace to make room for supernatural peace. To do this, I allowed the great storms to come into your life. I allowed the winds of chaos and the waves of uncertainty to rock the boat of your life so violently that you were certain you would capsize. This felt like I was abandoning you to the hurricane, but I was emptying you of your false trust in the shallow peace of calm situations. I was teaching you, in the most profound way possible, that true peace, my shalom, my wholeness and well-being, is not the absence of a storm on the outside, but the powerful presence of the master of the storm on the inside. I had to let the boat rock so that you would finally stop trusting in the seaworthiness of your own little boat and learn to trust completely in me. You were seeking the peace of the world. I wanted to give you the peace that overcomes the world. I had to empty you of your self-sourced strength. In your good and easy seasons, you had sourced your emotional well-being from your own natural resilience, your own optimistic outlook, your own psychological coping mechanisms. You were, by the world's standards, a strong person, but this was limited. finite, and easily depleted human strength, to bring you into the realm of my supernatural joy and peace. I first had to bring you to the end of your own strength. I had to lead you to a place of utter emotional and spiritual bankruptcy, a place where you had to finally admit, I cannot do this. I have no strength left. It was only in that place of absolute zero, that place of complete surrender, that you could finally discover the reality of my inexhaustible strength. I had to empty you of your own finite strength so that I could fill you with my infinite power. I know that this emptying process created a terrifying void within you. To be empty of joy, to be empty of peace, to be empty of strength. This is the experience that your mystics have called the dark night of the soul. It is a terrifying and disorienting place to be. It feels like death. And in a way, it is. It is a death of the false, self-sufficient self. But I was there with you in the void. I never left you. And that void, which felt to you like a tomb, was actually the womb of your spiritual rebirth. It was the cleared, empty, and perfectly prepared space where I could now begin to build something new, something real, something eternal, something that could never, ever be taken from you again. Therefore, I am calling you now to a radical new perspective that will bring healing to your past. I want you to look back at that painful moment when your shallow well finally ran dry. The moment your happiness failed you completely, and your situational peace was shattered into 1,000 pieces. And instead of seeing it as the worst and most tragic moment of your life, I want you to begin to see it as the most grace-filled and pivotal moment of your entire journey. For it was the moment that you were finally made desperate enough for the real thing. It was the moment you finally became truly thirsty. So, be thankful for your empty well, for it has qualified you to now receive the living water. The painful but necessary work of emptying is now over. And the glorious, joyful work of filling is about to begin. And I will not simply refill your old, shallow well with more of the same brackish water of circumstance. I am about to dig a new and different kind of well within you, an artesian well, a well so deep that its source is the very river of my own spirit, and the water that will now spring forth from you will be a water of life, and it will never, ever run dry. You now understand, with a new and liberating clarity, that the shallow well of your former circumstantial peace and happiness had to run dry. You see that this painful but necessary emptying was an act of my profound love, designed to create within you a desperate thirst for something deeper, something real, something eternal. But what was the force that drained that well? What was the event that revealed its shallow and unreliable nature? It was the great and terrifying storm of your adversity. You have looked at this storm as your greatest enemy. You have seen it as the destructive, chaotic force that stole your peace and left you shipwrecked and hopeless. But I have come to you today to completely reframe your understanding of that storm. The storm was not sent to destroy you, though it felt that way. The storm was a severe but necessary gift from my hand. It was the divine and holy classroom in which you would finally learn to find a peace that cannot be shaken. We must now speak of the gift of the storm. Let us not, for a single moment, minimize the sheer terror of the storm you have endured. I, who was in the boat with you the entire time, saw it all with perfect clarity. I saw you in your small vessel on the raging, black sea of your circumstances. I saw the hurricane-force wind of chaos as it howled around you, threatening to tear the very sails of your sanity to shreds. I saw the towering, monstrous waves of fear, of grief, of impossibility, of condemnation, rising up around you, crashing over your deck, and filling the hold of your heart with the cold, dark water of despair. I saw you, my child, bailing frantically, your spiritual muscles aching, your voice raw and hoarse from crying out for help, for rescue, for me. You were certain you were going to perish. The storm was not an illusion. It was terrifyingly real. The wind of chaos seemed to blow from every direction at once. Your life, which once felt so ordered and predictable, was suddenly thrown into a state of complete disarray. Nothing made sense. Your plans were meaningless. Your sense of control was revealed to be a fragile illusion. You felt violently thrown about, unable to find your footing, unable to chart a course. The waves of fear crashed against you, one after another, with a relentless and exhausting rhythm. There was the towering wave of what if, which presented your mind with 1,000 catastrophic future scenarios. There was the deep, cold wave of it's all over, which tried to convince you that your life, your purpose, and your hope were finished. And there was the most isolating wave of all, the wave of you're all alone, which sought to cut you off from the reality of my presence. And it all took place in a profound darkness. It was a storm at midnight. There were no stars, no moon, no lighthouse to guide you. You felt completely disoriented, with no sense of direction, no landmarks, just the roaring chaos and the terrifying blackness. And in the midst of this, you prayed. You prayed for me to do the one thing that seemed logical. You prayed for me to calm the storm around you. But my primary intention in this season of your life was not to calm the storm around you. It was to teach you how to find the calm within you, in the very midst of the storm, for you must understand a great mystery of the spiritual life, a truth that can only be learned in the hurricane. In the very center of every great, raging cyclone, there is a place of profound and perfect stillness. It is called the eye of the storm. While the winds rage with unimaginable, destructive fury in the eye wall, the eye itself is a place of eerie calm, of light winds, of blue skies, a profound peace. The storm I allowed in your life was a loving and strategic gift, because it was the only thing that could make you desperate enough to stop fighting the waves and to start seeking the eye. And I am the eye of your storm. The purpose of the trial was to teach you how to find me, not as an external rescuer from the storm, but as your internal center of peace within it. This is learning to find peace in the hurricane. So how does a soul journey from the raging chaos of the eye wall to the profound peace of the eye? You have already taken the first and most difficult step. For years, you tried to fight the storm in your own strength. You had your hands clenched tightly on the oars of control, trying with all your might to row against the hurricane-force winds of your circumstances. You were trying to control the uncontrollable, and it was utterly exhausting you. The first step in finding the eye was the moment of your complete and utter exhaustion, the moment of your surrender, the moment you finally let go of the oars and whispered, I can't fight this anymore. I give up. My child, that was not your moment of defeat. That was your moment of ultimate victory. It was the moment you stopped relying on your own strength and created the space for mine. The second step on the journey to the eye required a radical shift in your focus. As long as your eyes were fixated on the terrifying size of the waves around you, your heart was filled with an equal measure of terror. Your fear was a direct reflection of your focus. The journey to the eye required the spiritual discipline of taking your eyes off the problem and learning to look for my presence in the midst of the problem. It was a choice my disciple Peter had to make when he stepped out of the boat into his own storm. As long as his gaze was fixed on the person of my son, he did the impossible. He walked on the water. The moment he shifted his focus to the wind and the waves, he began to sink. In your storm, I have been patiently, lovingly teaching you the same discipline to fix the eyes of your heart on me, the unshakable one, not on your unstable and ever-changing circumstances. And this led you to the third and most important discovery. You have been looking for an external anchor, a change in your circumstances, a solution to your problem, a rescue from your storm to give you a sense of stability and peace. But I have been teaching you that true. Unshakable stability comes only from an internal anchor. The eye of the storm is not a geographical place outside of you. It is my unshakable, perfectly peaceful presence, dwelling deep within your own spirit. The journey to the eye was, therefore, an inward journey. It was the practice of learning to descend beneath the noisy, chaotic, and stormy surface of your own mind and your own emotions, down into the deep, quiet, and profoundly still place of your regenerated spirit, where I, by my Holy Spirit, have taken up my eternal residence. My perfect peace has been there, within you, all along, patiently waiting for you to discover it. The result of finding this eye, this still point of my presence within you, is the beginning of the restoration of your peace. It is a peace that the world cannot give and that the world cannot take away. It is a peace that, as my Apostle Paul wrote, surpasses all understanding. It does not make sense to the logical mind. It is a supernatural ability to be internally calm while your external world is in chaos. It is the divine ability to sleep in the back of the boat during the storm, as my son did, because your trust is no longer in the calmness of the sea, but in the presences of the creator of the sea. This is the peace I have purchased for you. It is not fragile. It is not dependent on your circumstances. It is a peace that has been tested by the hurricane and has been proven to be stronger than any storm. The storms of life will still come. I have not promised you a life of perpetually calm seas, but I have now given you the secret of the eye, and I am calling you now to practice living from this place. When a new storm of anxiety or fear or chaos begins to rage in your life, you are not to panic as you once did. You are to remember your training. You are to consciously let go of the oars of control. You are to deliberately take your eyes off the sides of the waves. And you are to, by faith, descend into the deep, quiet center of your own spirit, where you will find me, your perfect peace, waiting for you. Your peace is no longer a fragile thing, easily shattered by the first sign of trouble. It is now becoming a deep, resilient, and battle-tested reality in your life. You have found the unshakable center. You have received the profound gift of the storm. And now that you have found this deep and abiding peace, you are ready for me to restore its beautiful and long-lost twin sister, your joy. You have discovered the great and powerful secret of my peace. You have journeyed inward, past the raging winds of your circumstances and the tumultuous waves of your emotions, and you have found the unshakable, quiet center of the storm, the eye of the hurricane, where my presence abides in perfect stillness within your spirit. This peace, which surpasses all human understanding, is now becoming the new foundation of your soul. But my kingdom, the reality I am bringing into your life, is not only peace. The Apostle Paul, speaking by my Spirit, declared that the kingdom of God is righteousness, peace, and joy in the Holy Spirit. Peace is the deep, quiet, and stable foundation, but joy is the beautiful, light-filled, and glorious structure that is to be built upon it. Now that the foundation of my peace is being securely laid in your life, we must begin the glorious, and perhaps even more difficult, work of restoration. We must speak of the cultivation of a new laughter in the garden of your heart. I know that joy, even more than peace, feels like a foreign country to you now, a land from which you have been permanently exiled. Laughter feels like a language you have long forgotten how to speak. The sound of it may even feel jarring and inappropriate to you now. Like a cheerful song being played at a funeral, your long and bitter season of grief and sorrow has been like a harsh, unrelenting winter that has frozen the very soil of your heart, making it seem impossible that anything as tender and vibrant as a flower of joy could ever grow there again. You have looked at your own heavy heart. You have felt its coldness, and you have concluded, with a deep and weary resignation, that you are destined to be a serious, sober, and sorrowful person for the rest of your days. You have accepted joylessness as your new identity, but you have believed a profound lie about the relationship between sorrow and joy. You believe that your grief has destroyed your capacity for joy forever. But I tell you, a great mystery of my spiritual agriculture today, it has done the very opposite. It has created the very depth required for new, more profound, and infinitely more resilient kind of joy to take root and to flourish. Your former, shallow, circumstantial happiness had to die so that this new, deep, and unshakable joy could be born. You have misunderstood the process. You thought the winter was killing the ground, but I tell you, the winter was preparing the ground. The deep joy forged in your grief. Let us look at how this divine process works. First, your grief has been my divine plow. In your former seasons of ease, the soil of your heart was pleasant. Yes, but it was also shallow, compacted. It could only support the growth of shallow-rooted weeds of superficial happiness. But true, deep, resilient joy requires a deep and broken soil in which to sink its roots. And your grief, my child, has been the sharp, heavy blade of my plow, the painful share of your loss, of your disappointment, of your heartbreak, has plunged deep into the soil of your soul. It has broken up the hard, compacted ground of your pride, your self-reliance, and your simplistic understanding of the world. It has been an agonizing process. I know. It It has felt like you were being torn apart. But this tilling has created a deep, soft, and aerated soil where the roots of true joy, a joy that is not dependent on circumstances, can now go down deep into the bedrock of my love. Second, your sorrow has increased your capacity for joy. The great spiritual principle that you must understand is the potential measure of your future joy is directly proportional to the actual measure of your past sorrow. Think of your heart as a vessel. In your younger, less tested days, your heart was a small and shallow cup. It could be filled to the brim with happiness. Yes, but it did not take much, and it could be easily spilled. But in your long season of grief has been my process of taking that small cup and enlarging it. With every wave of sorrow you endured, I was stretching the vessel. I was making it wider and deeper. It has been a painful and often terrifying stretching, for you felt at times that your heart would surely break under the strain. But it did not break. It expanded. And now, your heart has a far greater capacity to contain the new, intoxicating wine of my divine joy than it ever did before. A person who has never known deep sorrow can only ever experience a shallow happiness. But you, because you have intimately known the very depths of grief, are now uniquely prepared to experience the ecstatic heights of divine joy. A joy so profound, so full, so overwhelming is coming to you that it would have shattered the smaller vessel of your former heart. I had to enlarge the vessel before I could pour out the wine. Third, your loss of joy has prepared you to truly appreciate it. You cannot truly, deeply appreciate the preciousness of light until you have spent a long time in a deep darkness. You cannot truly appreciate the gift of warmth till you have been deeply and painfully cold. And you cannot truly and gratefully appreciate the miraculous gift of divine joy until you have known the profound and aching loss of it. I have allowed you to walk through a joyless season for a very specific reason, so that when I now restore your joy, you will not take it for granted as you once did. You will not see it as your right. You will cherish it. You will guard it. You will steward it. You will see it for the rare, priceless, and supernatural gift that it truly is. When my joy begins to return, you will find yourself delighting in the simplest things with an intensity that will surprise you. The sight of a sunrise, the taste of a fresh piece of fruit, the sound of a child's laughter, these small things, which you once overlooked, will now strike you with a profound and tear-filled sense of wonder and gratitude. You will be grateful for joy itself, for you now know the alternative. And the joy I am restoring to you is not the same joy that you lost. It is a new and different kind of laughter. The laughter of your youth was a light, carefree, and often frivolous thing. It was beautiful, but it was untested. But the laughter that I'm now cultivating in your soul is of a different quality altogether. It is the deep, rumbling, belly laugh of a soul that has been to hell and back and has returned by my grace, victorious. It is the defiant laughter that can look back at the enemy's best attempt to destroy it and can laugh with the deep confidence of a proven survivor. It is a laughter that is not naive, but is wise, for it has been forged in the very crucible of your grief. It is a laughter that has tears in its eyes, for it is born of profound gratitude and overwhelming relief. This is the laughter of the redeemed. And there is no more beautiful or more powerful sound in all of my creation. But for this new garden of joy to grow, you must now partner with me for so long. You have lived in a state of mourning. You have worn your grief like a heavy, dark garment. And you may now, without even realizing it, feel guilty for feeling joy. You may feel that to be happy would be a betrayal of your past pain, or a sign that you did not suffer deeply enough. I have come today to release you from this false and holy sounding burden. Your season of mourning has served its sacred purpose. It has tilled the soil of your heart, but that season is now over. I, your God, give you permission to be happy again. In fact, I command you to pursue joy. I command you to laugh again. It is my will for your life. The long winter is over. The deep, dark, and fertile soil of your redeemed grief is now perfectly prepared. And I, the master gardener, am now planting new, resilient, and powerful seeds of joy within you. At first, you may see only the smallest, most tender green shoots a brief moment of unexpected delight, a fleeting smile that comes from nowhere, a sudden moment of lightheartedness that surprises you. Do not despise these small beginnings. They are real. They are from me. And I want you to water them with your attention and your gratitude, for these small shoots are the first evidence of a great and mighty garden of joy that will now begin to flourish in your life. A garden made all the more beautiful and all the more glorious because it has been grown in the very soil of your deepest sorrow. You have begun to understand the profound and mysterious ways I have been at work in your heart. You see how the storms of your life have taught you to find the deep, unshakable peace of my presence in the eye of the hurricane. You see how the long winter of your grief has tilled the soil of your soul, creating a new and profound capacity for a joy that is not dependent on your circumstances. You understand the why behind the painful preparation. But now, we must move from the season of preparation to the season of manifestation. For it is not enough for you to simply have the capacity for joy and peace. It is my heart's passionate desire for you to experience them, to drink deeply from them every single day. I know that for so long, you have felt a deep spiritual drought. You have tried to draw refreshment from the well of your own soul, but time and again, you have pulled up an empty, dusty bucket. Your prayers have felt dry and powerless. Your worship has felt like a duty performed with a parched throat. Your very spirit has felt like a cracked and barren land, scorched under the relentless sun of your trials, with no source of refreshment in sight. You have looked at this inner desert, and you have feared that the living water I once promised has ceased to flow for you, perhaps forever. But I must reveal to you a secret about the landscape of your own soul. Deep beneath the dry, cracked, and desolate surface of your present experience, there are ancient wells. These are not wells that you have dug. They are wells that I dug for you from the foundation of the world. They are the wells of my own joy and my own peace. And they are part of your eternal, blood-bought inheritance as my child, the patriarchs of your faith. Abraham and Isaac drank from these same wells. You have not been able to drink from them, not because the wells themselves have run dry, for their source is my own infinite being, and I can never run dry, but because the enemy of your soul, during your season of weakness and trial has maliciously and systematically stopped them up. He has come day after day and has filled your ancient well of joy with the heavy, gray rocks of your disappointments. He has filled your well of peace with the thick, sticky mud of your anxieties and fears. He has covered them over with the hard, compacted debris of your weariness and your shame. You have been living in a land of thirst, not because there is no water, but because the access to the water has been deliberately blocked. But I have come to you today as the great unstopper of wells. I have come as the divine well digger, the one who breaks the power of the drought in the desert. I have come with the mighty shovel of my grace and the sharp pickaxe of my truth. And I declare to you that I am now beginning the glorious, liberating work of clearing out the debris and unstopping the ancient wells within you. The breaking of the drought in your soul has begun. Let me tell you of the work I am now doing within you. First, I am reaching deep into the well of your joy, and I'm removing the heavy stones of your past disappointments. Each time you hoped for something and were let down. Each time a promise was delayed. Each time a dream died. It was as if the enemy threw another rock into this well, blocking its flow. The well had become choked with the accumulated weight of your grief. But today, with my own strong and loving hands, I'm reaching into the depth of your soul, and I'm lifting out those heavy stones. One by one, I'm taking the memory of that painful betrayal, that crushing failure, that long sickness, that unanswered prayer, and I'm casting them aside as I remove each one. I'm speaking my truth over it, redeeming it and stripping it of its power to block your joy. The well is being cleared of the immense weight of your past sorrow. Next, I am beginning the work of clearing out the dirt and the mud of your shame. The enemy has spent years shoveling the filth of your past sins and your present insecurities into your well of peace. He has whispered to you that a person like you, a person with your past, a person with your weaknesses, does not deserve to drink the clean, pure water of divine peace. He has tried to contaminate the well with the mud of your own unworthiness. But I am now releasing a powerful, cleansing flood of my grace into your soul. I am flushing out that well, every last particle of toxic shame, every speck of self-condemnation, every trace of the lie that you are not good enough is now being washed away by the powerful, irresistible current of my unconditional love for you. The well is being made pure and clean again, and I'm now taking aim at the hardest layer of all. For over the years of your hopelessness, a thick, hard, and impenetrable layer of resignation has formed over the top of these wells, sealing them off completely. It is a hard pan of cynicism and low expectations, a protective layer you have allowed to form to keep yourself from being disappointed again. This is the hardest layer for you to let me break, for it has served as a strange form of protection, but it has also kept you from the very life I want to give you. And so today, with the powerful, sharp tool of my spoken word, the very promise I am making to you right now, I am shattering that hard pan of resignation. I am breaking through the hopelessness that has kept you from even trying to access the joy and peace that are rightfully yours. I am breaking the agreement you have made with a joyless, peaceless life. And as I clear away the last of the debris of your past and shatter the hard pan of your resignation. Something new and miraculous will begin to happen in your spirit. I want you to begin to listen for it. You will begin to hear a new sound in the quietness of your own soul. It is the sound of water. At first, it will be just a quiet trickle, a small, gentle seepage from the deep places. This is the first taste of the living water of my joy and my peace that I'm restoring to you. It will feel cool. It will feel clean. And it will feel more refreshing to your parched and thirsty soul than anything you have ever experienced. When this first trickle of water begins to flow, you must partner with me. You must not be afraid of it. You must not be suspicious of it or dismiss it as a fleeting emotion. You must not say, "This is too good to be true. It won't last." When you feel that first unfamiliar stirring of genuine joy, or that first quiet moment of true peace, I want you to do one thing. I want you to, by faith, kneel down at the edge of that well, cup your hands, and drink deeply. You must receive it. You must welcome it. You must thank me for it. The more you drink from the small trickle, the more you will signal to the wellspring that it is safe to release its waters. Your act of receiving is a vital part of the unstopping process. This is my solemn promise to you, my child. The small trickle of my life that you are now beginning to experience will soon become a steady and reliable stream. And that stream will soon become a powerful, joyful current. And that current will soon become a mighty, artesian gusher of my spirit, overflowing the banks of the well and creating a beautiful, life-giving river of my presence that will flow through the entire landscape of your soul, bringing healing and life to every dry and desolate place. The drought is over. The ancient wells are being unstopped. The living water is beginning to flow once more. The ancient wells of your spirit, which for so long have been stopped up with the debris of your past and sealed with the hard pan of your resignation, are now being cleared by my own hand. You have begun to hear the first faint, miraculous sound of a trickle of living water, a promise of refreshment for your parched and weary soul. But you must understand, my child, the trickle is not my final goal for you. It is merely the sign that the great work of unstopping is complete. The time for the trickle is over. The time for the flood has now come. There is a new sound being released from the throne room of heaven concerning you. It is not the sound of a trickle. It is the sound of a mighty, rushing river, the season of your inner drought. Your long and painful exile in the land of sorrow and anxiety is now officially and eternally over. I, the God who makes all things new, the one who brings forth water from the rock and causes rivers to flow in the desert, declare to you today that I am now releasing a new, powerful, and unceasing flow of my own spirit into the very core of your being. This is the river of my presence. And this mighty river will accomplish in you what you could never accomplish for yourself. It will bring a full, tangible, and manifest restoration of your joy and your peace. My son stood on the last and greatest day of the feast, and he cried out for all to hear, a promise that was meant for you. Today, whoever believes in me, as the scripture has said, out of his heart will flow rivers of living water. He was speaking of my spirit, which was to be given to those who believe. My child, you have believed, you have endured, and now the promise is being fulfilled for too long. Your heart has been a dry and dusty riverbed, a place where life once flowed, but has long since receded. But today, I'm opening the great dam of heaven. I am diverting the very river that flows from my own throne, the river of the water of life, clear as crystal, and I am directing its powerful current into the dry channel of your life. The great restoration of your joy and your peace begins now. You must understand the nature and the effects of this divine river. First and foremost, this river brings resurrection life to the dead places. This is not ordinary water. It is living water, imbued with my own creative and resurrecting power. And everywhere this river flows, it brings forth abundant and glorious life. It will flow into the dead places of your heart, the places where your old dreams have died and been buried, the places where your passion and your creativity have withered away. And as it flows, you will feel a new life springing forth. New dreams, better dreams. My dreams for you will begin to blossom. A new passion for life and for me will be awakened. It will flow into the dead places of your relationships, bringing the possibility of reconciliation and new love where there was once only the silence of the grave. It will flow into your mind, resurrecting your ability to hope and to imagine a good future. The very first work of this river, as it enters the dry land of your soul, is to bring a great and glorious resurrection to all the parts of you that have died in your long season of trial. This river also cleanses and heals as it flows. The water of this river is perfectly pure, and it is the most powerful cleansing agent in the universe. As its current moves through you, it will continue the work of washing away any remaining residue of your past shame, any lingering bitterness, any pockets of fear that have been lodged in the corners of your heart. It is a river of perpetual sanctification, constantly washing, constantly purifying, constantly making you new. And the very banks of this river, as my servant John saw in his vision, are lined with trees of life, and the leaves of these trees are for the healing of the nations, and they are for the healing of your soul. As this river flows through you, it will bring a deep and lasting healing to the wounds that your trials have left behind. It will soothe the bruised and tender places. It will mend the broken places. It will bring a wholeness to your soul that you have only ever dreamed of. And you must know that this river has a sound. It is not a silent, stagnant pool. It is a moving, vibrant, and joyful river. And its sound is the sound of heaven itself. It is the sound of bubbling, effervescent, and uncontainable delight. It is the sound of heavenly laughter. As this river begins to flow more strongly through you, you will begin to hear its music in your own spirit. This, my child, is the source of the new and resilient joy I have promised you. It is not a joy you will have to manufacture through positive thinking. It is not a happiness you will have to find in your circumstances. It is a joy that you will simply receive as a gift, carried to you on the powerful current of my own delightful spirit. Your new, deep-throated laughter will be nothing more than the beautiful overflow of the river's joyful song within you. And while the surface of this river may dance and sparkle with the light of joy, its depths are a place of profound and immovable peace. It is a peace that comes from the sheer weight, depth, and power of the water. It is a deep, quiet, and mighty current that is not disturbed by the fiercest winds that may blow upon the surface. As you learn to rest in this river, as you learn to let go and be carried by its current, you will be held in this deep and powerful peace. The frantic, anxious striving of your old life will finally cease. As you learn to let the great river of my spirit carry you effortlessly into your destiny, you will finally learn to rest. And know this river I am releasing into you is not just for you. A healthy, living river never terminates in itself. It is not a closed lake. It always flows outward, bringing life to the dry land all around it. And so it will be with you, as you are filled to overflowing with my joy and my peace. These very things will begin to spill out of your life in the most natural and beautiful way. They will water the dry and thirsty souls of the people around you, your family, your friends, your co-workers. You will become a source of life for others. Your very presence will become a place of refreshment for the weary, a place of peace for the anxious. You will become a walking testament to my goodness, not just by what I have done for you, but by what I will now begin to do through you. The river is now beginning to flow at your feet. The invitation is before you. I will not push you in. You must, by a conscious act of faith, choose to step into this new flow of my spirit. You must choose to leave the dry, safe, and familiar banks of your old way of living. I'm inviting you to step in, first up to your ankles, allowing yourself to feel the first cool refreshment of my presence. Then, I will invite you to step further, up to your knees, and then to your waist, until you finally have the courage to lift your feet off the bottom and be completely and wonderfully immersed, carried, and swept away by the powerful, joyful, and peaceful current of my presence. It is a call to a new and deeper surrender. The drought is over, my beloved. The river is here. The great restoration of your joy and your peace is not a distant hope. It is the present reality of the work that my spirit is now beginning in your life. Step in, my child. Let the living water flow. Your long and painful exile is over. Welcome home. The great river of my presence is now being released and is beginning to flow into the dry and desolate lands of your soul, bringing with it the sure and certain promise of your restored joy and peace. The season of your inner drought is over. But my beloved child, you must understand a simple and practical truth. A thirsty person can stand on the bank of the mightiest river in the world and still die of thirst if they do not know how, or do not give themselves permission to kneel down and drink. It is not enough for me to release the river of my spirit into your life. You must now learn how to receive it. We must now speak of the practical, joyful, and life-altering disciplines of drinking from the river. I know that this very idea may sound strange to you. You have spent years praying, pleading, and begging for joy and peace. And now I must teach you how to receive them. But you have lived in the harsh and barren land of your inner exile for so long that you have become acclimatized to its oppressive atmosphere. The profound quiet of my peace may feel unnerving and foreign to a soul that has grown accustomed to the constant, chaotic noise of anxiety. The sheer lightness of my joy may feel frivolous, irresponsible, or even cruel to a heart that has grown heavy and serious under the weight of long-suffering. You may, in a subtle and subconscious way, feel guilty for feeling good. You must now be gently taught how to receive the very restoration you have been crying out for. You have thought of receiving as a completely passive act, something that simply happens to you without your involvement. But I tell you, true, deep, and lasting receiving is an active, intentional, and powerful spiritual discipline. You must learn to partner with the work my Spirit is now doing in your life. You must learn the discipline of receiving joy and peace. Let us first speak of how you will learn to drink of my peace. The first and most foundational discipline is the practice of intentional stillness to receive my peace. You must first create a quiet and welcoming space within you for it to enter. The world around you is filled with a deafening cacophony of noise, of demands, of distractions. And your own mind, trained by years of anxiety, is often the noisiest place of all. I am now calling you to a gentle but radical act of resistance against this noise. I am calling you to the discipline of intentional stillness. This does not have to be a long and arduous practice. It means carving out small, sacred moments in your ordinary day to simply be still and quiet before me. It means choosing to turn off the television, to put down your phone, to close your computer, and for 5 or 10 minutes, to simply sit in a chair, to close your eyes, to focus on your breathing, and to do nothing. In that quiet, you're not trying to accomplish anything. You're not striving to hear my voice or to have a great spiritual experience. You are simply creating an empty space. You are creating a quiet, still pool into which the peace from the river of my presence can now flow and begin to gather. At first, this stillness may feel deeply uncomfortable, as your anxious mind will fight against it. But as you practice it day after day, you will find that you are creating a new capacity within your soul to receive and to hold the peace that I'm so longing to give you. The second discipline for receiving peace is the practice of conscious release. You cannot possibly receive the weight of my peace into your heart if your hands are already full, clinging with a white-knuckle grip to all of your anxieties. You must learn the discipline of release. My scripture invites you to cast all your anxiety on him because he cares for you. This is not a one-time suggestion. It is a practical, daily, and sometimes moment-by-moment spiritual transaction. When you feel a specific anxiety begin to rise within you, a worry about your finances, a fear about your health, an anxious thought about a relationship, I want you to learn to pause. I want you to visualize yourself literally taking that specific worry, cupping it in your hands, and then, with a conscious act of your will, opening your hands and casting it upon me. You must consciously and verbally hand over the burdens that you were never designed to carry. And with every burden you release, you are creating more empty space in your soul for my perfect peace to flow in and take its place. Now let us speak of how you will learn to drink of my joy. The first discipline is perhaps the most important of all for you in the season. It is the discipline of giving yourself permission. This is crucial after so much suffering, after so many years of wearing your grief like a heavy garment. You may feel that to be joyful would be a betrayal of your past pain. You may feel that it would be disrespectful to the gravity of what you have endured. You may even feel deep down that you do not deserve to be happy again. My child, I have come to you today to release you from this false and holy sounding burden. Your season of mourning has served its sacred purpose. It is now complete. And I, your God, your Father, the one who delights in you, hereby give you my full and joyous permission to be happy again. I give you permission to laugh again, to play again, to delight in the simple, good things of this life. And you must now take my permission and give it to yourself. When you feel a small, unexpected moment of joy, you must not suppress it with guilt. I want you to consciously say to your own soul, it is okay to feel this. It is safe to be happy. My Father delights in my delight. The final discipline is that of noticing and naming delight. My joy is often found not in the great, dramatic events, but in the small, quiet, and often overlooked moments of your day. To receive this joy, you must practice the art of noticing it. I want you to become a hunter of delight. I want you to train your eyes to look for the small moments that bring even a flicker of pleasure or contentment, the taste of a perfectly ripe piece of fruit, the beauty of a song on the radio, the warmth of the sun on your skin on a cool day, the genuine smile of a stranger, the antics of a playful animal. When you notice one of these small moments of delight, you must not let it pass by, unacknowledged. You must learn to pause, even for a second, and to savor it. You must name it in your own mind. You must say to yourself, this right here, this is a moment of joy. This is a good gift from my Father. By consciously noticing and naming these small joys, you are training your soul to recognize the flavor of my goodness again. You are watering the small seeds of joy that I'm planting in your heart, and you are encouraging them to grow. As you begin to gently and patiently practice these simple, daily disciplines, a profound and lasting shift will occur in your inner world. The act of receiving my peace and my joy will slowly move from being a difficult, conscious discipline to becoming your new, natural, and default state of being. The very atmosphere of your soul will change. The climate of your inner world will be transformed from the dry, oppressive, and desolate land of your exile to the lush, green, and well-watered garden of my own presence. And so, my beloved child, who is now learning to drink deeply from the river of my spirit, this is your new and joyful work. The journey has been long. The exile was real and it was painful. You have known the deep agony of a soul that has lost its connection to its homeland of joy and peace. But now, you have come home from the desolation of your inner exile, through the painful but necessary emptying of your shallow wells, to the glorious unstopping of the ancient sources of your inheritance. I have led you. The great river of my presence is now flowing freely into your life. You now have the instructions, the simple disciplines of the heart that will allow you to drink deeply from this river every single day. This is not a new set of laws that you must follow perfectly to earn my love. You already have my love completely. This is simply a joyful invitation into a new way of life, a life of conscious, moment by moment companionship with me. There's no condemnation for the days when you forget, for the moments when you fall back into the old habits of anxiety and sorrow. My grace is sufficient for you, and my river will still be there, waiting patiently for you to return and drink again. So drink deeply, my child. Drink until you are full and overflowing. The river is yours. It was purchased for you at an infinite price, and it will never, ever run dry. The joy and the peace you have so desperately longed for are now your present and your eternal inheritance, right here in the land of the living.